devastated by drugs and by the opioid epidemic, while those engaged in this business count their money. And I want to be clear, enough is enough. So today's indictment should serve as a warning. If you're engaged in drug trafficking, we're going to pursue you and we're going to hold you accountable to the fullest extent of the law. But we're also not going to stop there. Ending drug use involves absolutely robust investigation and prosecution efforts like the one you're seeing today, but it also takes a holistic approach. That's why we're equally committed to both supporting those overcoming addiction and stopping our young people from beginning an addiction before it starts. That's why during my administration, we created offices dedicated to this holistic approach and have worked to address public safety by integrating solutions and resources from our public health partners. Both the Divisions of Violence Intervention and Victim Assistance, as well as the Office of Alternative and Community Responses, coordinate programs partnering local, county, and state law enforcement with community-based organizations focused on ending cycles of violence and addiction. These programs include Operation Helping Hand and overdose response teams, which have connected countless New Jersey residents to recovery and ensured that naloxone, more commonly known as Narcan, one of its brand names, is widely available in our communities, while our community-based and hospital-based violence intervention programs help to intervene cycles of trauma and end cycles of abuse. We've also led national litigation efforts against those who have profited from the opioid epidemic, the manufacturers, distributors, and retailers that made money, like the alleged ringleaders of this operation, off of the devastation their products caused in our communities. To date, we have recovered over $1 billion from these companies that have profited off the opioid epidemic that will go directly to help address the harms caused in our communities. This approach, this comprehensive approach, is working. The most recent report from the Office of the Chief State Medical Examiner shows that in 2024, we saw a 30% decline in suspected drug-related deaths, from 2,573 in 2023 to 1,803 in 2024. Now that's 1,803 too many, and for the 1,800 families devastated by this epidemic, it is small consolation that we have seen a decline in 30%. But it's still a difference of 770 families that from one year to the next did not experience the devastation and the horrors that this epidemic has wreaked. And I want to thank the women and men of the state police. I'm joined here by several of the members of the investigation team, as well as the prosecution investigation team from the Division of Criminal Justice, who are here with us as well, who have worked tirelessly for years on this case and on so many others to bring perpetrators who are profiting off of the deaths in our community to justice, to hold them accountable, and to deter anyone else who would think about entering this business from even trying to harm our residents. We know that this work is essential for the 9.5 million people who call New Jersey home, and we're not going to stop until we've gotten that 1,800 number down to zero. So now I'll turn the podium over to the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Teresa Hillett.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Attorney General Platkin. Thank you also to the New Jersey State Police and the incredible team of investigators, detectives, and the prosecutors from the Division of Criminal Justice who worked on this case. As the Attorney General noted, these arrests and indictments are the result of a 3-year investigation, which speaks to the complex nature of this case. This was a sophisticated drug trafficking operation based in Patterson in Passaic County and Garfield and Lodi, both in Bergen County. And it required an intricate investigation that combined the latest technology with old-fashioned police work. Detectives used both physical and electronic surveillance, search warrants, and cell phone analysis in the course of the investigation and learned that these 5 opioid mills were operating as what we defined as a drug trafficking organization, or a DTO. That means they were coordinating their efforts to process, package, and distribute heroin and fentanyl on the streets of New Jersey for profit. And it operated as a business with a clearly defined hierarchy consisting of supervisors, organizers, financiers, and promoters, as well as designated controlled dangerous substance or CDS distributors, baggers, and runners. It even had support staff who provided both vehicles to transport the drugs and fake driver's licenses. In addition to uncovering the network's operations over the course of the investigation, the state police recovered 2 firearms, a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson Glock Model 22, a semi-automatic pistol, and a .38 caliber Colt Model 38 semi-automatic revolver. As was mentioned, they seized approximately 126 ounces of heroin and 95 ounces of fentanyl between the various mill locations. At each location, the CDS was packaged in or accompanied by thousands of packaging wax folds containing powder. 20 of the defendants are charged with first-degree racketeering for operating the opioid mills, which produced and distributed the fentanyl-laced heroin. They are Adrian Rodriguez, Carl Sanchez, Walter Gutierrez, Javier Castro, Leonel Creek, Alexander Madera, Harley Palero, Albert Rivera, Albert Lagua, Francisco Garcia, Carlos Francisco, Raymond Jaquez, Tatiana Rosado, Cesar Marte Perez, Edson Carranza, Eduardo Godinez Jr., Kitiana Sanchez, Jordani de Jesus, Fraylene Nunez, and Christopher Infante Sanchez. In addition, Adrian Rodriguez, Walter Gutierrez, and Carlos Sanchez each faced another first-degree charge of promoting organized street crime for conspiring with others as the organizers, supervisors, financiers, or manager role for maintaining or operating the CDS production facility and distributing or possessing the CDS. Each of the defendants face an array of other charges related to their role in the organization, including packaging and distributing drugs, providing or using fake identification, unlawful possession of a weapon, and fraud. The 53-count indictment should serve as a reminder to anyone who might engage in illegal drug activity in our state. New Jersey's law enforcement community is made up of tenacious, committed investigators and detectives who will uncover the crimes. We do this work each and every day because our people, particularly our children, deserve to live in communities free from fear and free from the harm that drugs can do. I want to thank again Attorney General Platkin for your leadership, and I will turn things back to you.
Thank you, Director Hilton, both for your remarks and for the work that you and your team did on this case. And I want to now turn the podium over to Major Mike Flory of the State Police, and again thank the incredible investigation team from the State Police for their hard work on this case and on so many other cases that are keeping our state safe.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Attorney General Platkin and Director Hilton. My name is Major Mike Flory. I'm the Deputy Branch Commander for the New Jersey State Police Investigations Branch. On behalf of Colonel Callahan and Lieutenant Colonel Phil Buck, I thank you for being here today and for allowing me to provide remarks. We stand before you to announce a major victory in the fight against drug trafficking and organized crime. After an extensive and thorough investigation by the New Jersey State Police Drug Trafficking North Unit and our partner agencies, we have successfully dismantled the Rodriguez, Sanchez, and Gutierrez drug trafficking organization that has been operating in our northern New Jersey communities for several years. This operation is a result of years of dedicated work by our troopers, federal, state, county, and local officers, deputy attorney generals, analysts, and forensic scientists who have worked tirelessly in bringing those responsible to justice. This investigation, which involved cooperation between local, state, and federal agencies, has led to the arrest and indictment of 21 individuals and the seizures of significant amounts of heroin and fentanyl, as the Attorney General indicated, worth a street value of several $1 million. The investigation also resulted in the seizure of 2 firearms, vehicles, and cash that were derived from this illicit trafficking operation. The drugs seized were intended for distribution across our streets, threatening the safety and well-being of countless individuals. We want to be clear, this takedown is not just about arrests, it is about saving lives. The scourge of drug trafficking fuels addiction, violence, and crime, tearing apart families and communities. By removing these dangerous individuals from our streets, we are taking a significant step in protecting our citizens and ensuring that our neighborhoods remain safe places to live, work, and raise families. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to every law enforcement officer, investigator, prosecutor, analyst, and forensic scientist involved in this operation. Your commitment and determination have made today's success possible. Additionally, we recognize the importance of community involvement in fighting the drug epidemic. We urge the public to remain vigilant and to report suspicious activities because together we can continue to combat this crisis. While today marks a significant achievement, our work is far from over. We will continue to pursue those who seek to profit from the suffering of others, and we will not rest until our communities are free from the grip of illegal drugs. Thank you.
Thank you, Major. I'll take questions in a second, but I want to underscore two things. First, as I said, 500,000 doses were seized in this case. Any one of the fentanyl-laced heroin doses or a dose of fentanyl could have been lethal. We know that. And I've spent far too much time with families who have lost a loved one to this epidemic to ignore the scale of the devastation that this amount of fentanyl and fentanyl-laced heroin could have caused in our state. The second is the teams that worked on this worked tirelessly for years to not just get the low-hanging fruit of a case, but to build a case that held the perpetrators accountable at the highest levels to the maximum degree. And that is a lesson I want everyone to understand. We're going to catch you, and we're going to hold you accountable if you continue to fuel the devastation in our communities. I'm now happy to take any questions. Yes.
Do you know where this organization was getting these drugs from?
I don't have that information to provide at this time.
Yes.
Please further ask the citizen status of any of these individuals. We hear all about how undocumented people are dealing the drugs, importing the drugs. Are any of these defendants not citizens?
The only thing I would say is that for the purposes of this investigation, we're not looking at the immigration status. We're looking at investigating the crime, so I don't have that information to provide at this time either.
I would just note, because there's been a whole lot of half-truths or misconceptions presented on how the law works in the state. These are first-degree crimes. These people will be held accountable, and we will cooperate with federal authorities with respect to these individuals, should any of them not have immigration status.
Are all 20 arrested and in custody, or any of them at large?
Not all 20.
How many are at large?
11 are in custody, and we're in the process of executing arrests on the remainder. Yeah.
You say mills. What were these locations? Were they private addresses? Were they bodegas?
They were private addresses. And to your question, 11 of them have been arrested. They have not all been detained by the court. Does that make sense?
So they've been processed, you mean? Or?
They've been processed, and through the course of the detention hearing process, several of them have been released.
So are the other
at the
9,
judge's direction.
Are the other 9 fugitives at this point?
The other 10, yes.
There's 21.
There's 20 in the racketeering charge, and then there's one additional defendant who is allegedly providing fake IDs.
Are there any overdose deaths that are connected to this group of people?
Based on the stamp information that we got off of some of the individual bags through our drug monitoring initiative at State Police Rock, we've linked 109 fatal overdoses and 143 non-fatal overdoses to those stamps. We can't definitively link those to the defendants, but it's the same stamp, if that makes sense.
193 fatal overdoses?
Nope, 109 and 143 non-fatal.
And what time period are those overdoses over this 3-year period?
Yes, sir, I don't have the exact time frame.
What the stamp say? the brand stamps?
I don't have that information in front of me.
Yeah, so as a general matter, mills stamp their products the same way companies market their products, except these products are lethal. And you just heard the number of stamped overdoses in this case, and that's something we have seen in our other cases, and it's a way that state police has helped build cases because we look at the stamping on the products.
What about the distribution? You know, can you speak to what area was quote unquote served by these mills?
Yeah, so obviously you see there's 4 locations
Yeah.
in Patterson and 1 in Garfield, and as we said, it covered an extensive area in the state. I don't know, we can say definitively how far it went, but needless to say, you have 500,000 doses of fentanyl and fentanyl-laced heroin. They're not serving a single street corner. Yes.
What would one of these operations look like when you go, what typically is going on in one of these locations?
They're large-scale manufacturing of lethal opioids and distribution. As we said, I mean, they had boxes of paraphernalia that's used for distribution, and they're distributing it without regard for the devastation that it would cause in our communities. Okay.
11 arrests. Could you give us a sense of when those arrests that occurred, the last few days, the last couple weeks?
Yeah, within the last couple weeks, and again, the operation is ongoing. So you had a question?
Yeah, I have an off-topic
Sure.
question if you entertain it. Thank you. Last year, the Comptroller's Office released a report on the NJDOC, and one of their major findings was very obscure to figure out whether or not NJDOC's internal investigators and the department in general are bound by the IAPP and oversight of your office in general. So I'd like to hear from you. Do you have no less oversight over the DOC than any other traditional police department? And do you have any insight as to why the DOC would be so unclear or think that they have less finding to that?
Well, we can, why don't we offline, because we can answer your
I'd love
question.
to.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I have an off-topic
Sure.
question, too. I know the state is still going through the appeals process of the federal judge's decision that allows private companies to
Yeah.
operate detention centers, immigration detention centers in the state. The other week, the Trump administration said that they would open the largest detention center for migrants here in Newark.
Yeah.
Do you have any position on that? Have you all made any efforts to sort of speed up these cases, these appeals?
Well, that last question is a little outside of our hands. But I'll say this, and we've been very clear, we've been litigating, as you noted, a state law passed by the legislature, signed by the governor about private detention facilities. We felt the district court was incorrect in that case, not upholding that law. We are actively appealing it, and we believe the law is both legal and appropriate. And we're going to continue to fight to see it come into effect. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank again the incredible teams from the State Police and the Division of Criminal Justice who worked on this matter.